So yeah, thank you for taking time out to have a chat. I imagine Fright Fest is next week, so preparations and stuff must be getting quite hectic. So I do appreciate you taking the time out. We're obviously here to talk about Broken Bird, which is the film which is opening this year's festival, the 25th anniversary of Fright Fest. How are you feeling about the screening?
I'm excited because no one's really seen it yet. So excited and a little nervous, but yeah, I'm sort of curious to hear what people think about it because it is so unusual.
Mm. And it seems quite fitting that we're meeting over Zoom because that's where you first met your director, Joanne, during the casting process. What was it about Sybil when you read that script that made you sort of determined to play her?
She, as a character, I mean, she just screamed at me to take her on. I was so busy when that audition came through, and I initially self-taped, and I just had a really clear sense about what I wanted to do with her, which isn't always the case. And then quite quickly they wanted to Zoom. It was Joanne and Zoe, our producer, and they were just so lovely and wonderful. And I just thought, like, this is just every part of it was amazing. And yeah, but it was interesting that I had such a clear vision for it early on, and it really lined up with Joe's vision. I felt we were on the same path, and yeah.
Mm. I think it's like when I spoke to Joe recently, she mentioned that during the audition you decided to play Sybil with a slight Geordie accent, and that was something that she hadn't initially envisaged. What was your sort of thought process about that being Sybil's voice?
Yeah, I reading it instinctively felt like she needed to come from somewhere else, but within the region. And I wanted to do something authentic. I didn't want to create too much of a caricature. So Geordie, for me, it's where I originally come from. I left when I was a kid, but it's a part of my identity. And I have a big family up there in Concert in County Durham. And and there's so many interesting people up there. I live sort of, it's an old steelworks town, but it's in the countryside as well. And it's such a juxtaposition of different types of people, and I've always felt like it's the perfect place to make a horror film, and so I just was able to play with her vocally more, I think, um, sort of having using a native accent of mine because I have a few, but yeah, and
I
Joe
think it
liked
also,
it.
yeah, I think it also helps with the character though, because I think regularly when they do these big questionnaires, the Geordie accent tends to come out on top of like the accent that everybody likes, and it is really friendly, and I think it works really well with Sybil because it kind of almost explains why she has gone under the radar for so long because she does have this kind of welcoming accent.
Yeah, I agree, and the likability factor, like Geordies are just wonderful people, and maybe I'm biased, but they're so open-hearted and warm, and there's something that makes you trust them a bit more. I think it's the lilt and the musicality of the accent, but so I liked that because I liked that maybe it would help you warm to her. Like I can't imagine her in an RP. I just can't imagine it. I just think she would be disliked immediately somehow. So yeah, I was so glad that Joe went for it because I think it was written as Yorkshire originally, which I can do, but it was just comfortable. And I was filming at the time when I auditioned for this, and I was just finishing up. I was in Cardiff, and it was just something I could lean into easily, and I didn't want to detract from the work, from the tone of it. So yeah, I'm really glad that Joe went with that as well.
And throughout much of the film, one of the things that really stands out to me about Sybil is that she's always immaculately dressed. She's so put together. How much does a character's wardrobe inform your performance as an actor?
It informs all of my performances. As soon as you've sort of had your fittings and you've looked in the mirror and as the character, the hair, the makeup, um, because how someone does their makeup, I think, tells us a lot about them, and how we choose to present ourselves to the world says so much. And I was quite hands-on with that. I did a Zoom with Maria Stozic, the makeup designer, before I flew out. I was only cast maybe 7 to 10 days before we shot this, so there was very little time, and I had to come up with my ideas pretty quickly. And I just saw her with this short fringe, and I I love the reference of No Country for Old Men, Javier Bardem's character, and I found similarities in Sybil and his role in the stillness that they present, and so I loved this sort of severe look, and it was a choice, but Maria loved it and was just excited by it, and giving it kind of a fashion edge I thought was interesting visually for the film and the look. And obviously she's in uniform for much of the film, and I loved all of those moments as well, the kind of clinical suit tie, well presented, and the manicured, what she does for a job. She's presenting people at their best. She's trying to make them the best version of themselves, and so having very clean nails, tidy, yeah, versus the fantasy side the way she would like to be in life but can't quite attain. So yeah, I like the two versions of herself.
Because that's what is great about this film and Sybil, is that she does have this duality. There's thing everything about the film is speaking to this. From the color palette to the choice of locations. You've got this very sort of like cold mortuary, and then you've got this really cozy sort of coffee house pub that she sort of frequents. How did you sort of go about balancing those two sides? Because I think in any scene there is glimpses of that other side that's not being represented. So how did you sort of go about sort of conveying that duality at all times?
Um, yeah, that was the challenge with Sybil. It's, you don't want to make a cliche character, and I wanted to, um, I was reaching for something nuanced because I wanted to honor an audience's experience, their lived experience. There are people that are going to watch this that have experienced traumas of that ilk, and it's a horror, so it's heightened, but I wanted to sort of base it in naturalism, and we all relate in some way to grief and loss, and what that does to us and how we recover and how we carry on. And so with Sybil, it was sort of always, there was an underbelly of it at all times with her, but it was that there was a stillness on the exterior, but underneath all of that, I felt like there was always rage, suppressed rage, and we see it at times, and she can be absolutely, fearsome in her destruction, but she's very together, and so yeah, it was just playing with the light and darkness, and trying to balance it out, and yeah, and also I really like Sybil. I suppose I can't help it. I can't justify what she does, but I really like her, and I find her funny. And it was such a beautifully written script by Dominic Brunt, very clever script, and there were so many moments that you could just laugh, reading out on the page, and so yeah, so there was a lot to draw from.
I mean, she is this, given you said the nature of her actions and her circumstances. I imagine that she was quite a difficult character to sort of to share a mind with. How I know she's not your first sort of whirl in a dark role, but how do you kind of compartmentalize that as an actor so that you're not bringing these characters home with you?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I think that's always the danger for actors is we don't realize that our bodies are living through the experience. I've played lots of grieving mothers and murderers. I think that year that I shot Sybil, I played back-to-back murderers. One was also a rape victim. Then I went on to play a racist, which I was doing at the time. Then I went on to play Sybil. And then after a month after I got back from Sybil, I played a paedophile. And it was a lot. Like it was almost ridiculous, to play so many of these roles in 12 months. Um, I think I'm quite good at kind of decompartmentalizing, but yeah, it does take a toll. And you feel like I got really sick after Sybil. I came home and kind of, hit a wall. It was Christmas time, and I got really sick for like a good 6 weeks. And I think it was my nervous system just settling down. And yeah, I think you're operating on a different level when you're working at that capacity day in, day out. There was always something really challenging to do on every shoot day, and fun things as well. So there was a lot of lightness in Broken Bird, but yeah, you have to sort of be kind to yourself, I think. And I do believe that when I work on those kind of projects, it's better to be away from home, where I'm not going home to my normal life, because it's challenging, it's difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine. And like I said at the start, Broken Bird is going to be opening Fright Fest. What do you hope that the audience get from Broken Bird?
Um, I hope they enjoy the ride, because it's I mean, horror genre is so diverse, and I've worked in a few before, and they're all completely different one to the next. And but this is, I don't really know how you describe it, because it's quite a cross-genre film. Yeah, like it is a horror, but it's also a sort of it's almost like a rom-com gone wrong. And it's those moments, there is a sort of romanticism to it, and there are humorous moments, but it's certainly not a comedy. So it's yeah, I hope that they enjoy the ride, because I mean, every horror in the Fright Fest selection will be offering something different. Everything is going to be unique. But yeah, my other half is terrified watching scary films. I love watching scary films, and certainly like paranormal kind of films. And he can't watch them. He's like this. And I've been a ghost before, and he's being terrified. He's like, the ghost is in the room with me. She's sat next to me on the sofa, and he can't sleep with me at night. But yeah, I think it's I hope that people can come into this no matter what their sort of preference is, and enjoy the experience.
Well, yeah, I think that's exactly what they're going to do. So I wish you the best of luck with the screening and the release.
Thank you so much, Kat. Great to talk to you.